of this video presentation on YouTube once it's complete. And we also plan for those who did register to send materials and the link to that video to folks who registered once the session is over. There might be a little bit of delay for in terms of how soon we're able to upload it to YouTube, but by next week, the folks who are on our registration list will get a copy or a link to the YouTube and PDF copies of the materials we covered today. Just to go over our agenda a little bit, we will be covering a good amount of information. We'll be talking about EBMUD overall, who are we, what are our mission and values, and what do we do? We'll talk about EBMUD's workforce development program, overall job opportunities and career pathways at the district. And then, of course, the meat and potatoes of why we're here today. We will cover the utility laborer position and upcoming recruitment. We'll also touch on EBMUD's civil service exam process, benefits at EBMUD, and we'll wrap up with other resources and an opportunity for Q&A. On that note, this chat should have a Q&A function. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, please don't hesitate to put them either in the chat or in the question and answer. We have staff who are on the call who are going to be assisting with answering any questions that come up. All right. So to start, EBMUD's mission and values. So our mission is to manage natural resources with which the district is entrusted to provide reliable, high-quality water and wastewater services at fair and reasonable rates for the people of the East Bay, and to preserve and protect the environment for future generations. So a very tall order, but we take it seriously, and we do it with pride. On the right-hand side here, you can see these 4 words, which are EBMUD's values. So stewardship, integrity, respect, and teamwork. These are pillars of what we're doing every day that we try to imbue in all of our work. To give a brief overview of EBMUD's service area, I'm going to turn on my laser pointer here to explain a little bit. So in this map, you see this overall area. This is EBMUD's service area. This is where we're providing water service to individuals in the East Bay area. In this kind of hash marked area here that I'm outlining with the laser pointer, this is our wastewater service area. So it's a smaller subsection of the overall EBMUD service area. And on the left, you can see here that the water system, that larger area, captures about 1.4 million people in about 332 square miles. The wastewater system, that smaller subsection, is about 740,000 people in an 88 square mile area. And then to zoom out even further, so we just looked at this area here, but EBMUD's system, our water supply, comes all the way from the Sierra foothills. I promise you there will not be a test on this information, but it's really good to know that while we are EBMUD, we actually have staff and services, or rather staff and work locations all the way up through the McCollum watershed. So our operations begin at that watershed at the foothill of the Sierra Nevadas. It extends 90 miles to the East Bay area, and that whole system includes reservoirs, aqueducts, treatment plants, and distribution facilities. So just to be clear, the positions we're covering today, the utility laborer positions, are based in the East Bay area. But the reason I mention this larger system of EBMUD is because we actually have these operations in this much larger area, and that means we also have career opportunities in this overall area. So again, we'll be focusing today on the utility laborer, which is going to be in the EBMUD service area. But for folks who maybe work with clients or who might be flexible or open to positions further north, just keep that in mind. So just to there we go. So East Bay MUD has a long-term workforce development strategy, which is led by my office, the Diversity and Inclusion Office, shortened to DIO. So we have 3 major areas of responsibility. I won't go through each of them, but you can kind of see on the graphic to the right. And so information sessions like what we're here today fall under our workforce development program. Our efforts to attract, recruit, and retain a diverse, qualified workforce, especially for mission critical jobs and high volume recruitments. So the DIO builds strategic partnerships with community-based organizations to achieve this goal. And so if anybody on this call would like to learn more about the work that our specific office does, or to partner with the DIO, please reach out to the contact information listed on the screen or that Talia just put into the chat. And I will note that though I am hosting today's information session, the DIO is distinct from human resources and distinct from recruitment and classification. And so I just wanted to note that we have fantastic recruitment and classification staff on today's call who can help answer recruitment related questions in the chat or a Q&A. We also have a superintendent who will speak later in the presentation about what hiring supervisors are looking for in utility laborer candidates. All right, so again, this is a little bit more broad, and then we'll get a little bit more narrowed down to utility laborer specifically. But it's really important just to go over that East Bay MUD has a variety of career opportunities. So while folks might think initially of maybe our more trades-based positions, so thinking about our water distribution plumbers, for example, those are the folks you most often see, or maybe meter readers who are out in the community. We have over 400 job classifications, and new jobs are posted every Monday at ebmud.com/jobs. Here on this table, you can see the current postings that are open to all candidates. And so it will list the salary. This is the link to the specific position posting, as well as the close date. And I'll note that for any of our East Bay MUD jobs that are posted, the close time will always end on a Friday at 4:30 p.m. So for example, Engineering Designer 1, that is closing this Friday at 4:30 p.m. So if you know anyone who's interested, or you're a job seeker, you're on this call and you are excited to apply to any of these positions, just bear that in mind. I know it can be tricky sometimes if there's a shorter posting period, and that's why what we'll cover on the next slide will be really helpful. So I'll actually start down here. These are links to where you can find our current job opportunities, which we just covered on the previous page. So that's the actual web page you can find those opportunities at. You can also take a look at all available EBMUD job classifications at this second link. And what's really nice about this, it's going to list every position available at East Bay MUD, including those that we're not currently recruiting for. The nice thing about that is you can start to prepare or think about which positions might interest you or fit your experience and education. And you have the option, if you find a position you're interested in, such as utility laborer, you can go ahead and click subscribe. So this green button here, once you click into a job description, that is a way for you to receive an email if the position opens in the next 12 months. So that's especially helpful for positions that might have a shorter posting period, maybe 1 week. You can be one of the first people to know about the position when it opens. And it takes away the work from you having to check the website every Monday. And then here, I I do apologize. I needed to make a correction to this slide. So I will just note this verbally here, but the recruitment period for these two positions for wastewater plant operator trainee and wastewater or water treatment distribution operator trainee has been pushed out a couple of months. So you'll see that reflected on the following slide. I just don't want there to be any confusion, but these are some of our upcoming recruitments that are typically high volume, where we get a lot of people who are applying because often, they tend to have like low requirements and they are just a great foot in the door opportunity. So you can see here, this is the actually revised list where it shows it chronologically. So you can see here that those two are now expected in either like fall or I believe winter of this year. So you can access this flyer is located on EBMUD's website. And we will be providing a copy to that to folks who registered for this after the fact. And then just to kind of go over here, just tips for folks who are applying to any job at East Bay MUD. First and foremost, don't wait for an opening to begin working on your profile. So East Bay MUD jobs are posted on governmentjobs.com. You can access them through ebmud.com/jobs, but the hosting website is called governmentjobs.com. So on that website, in order to submit an application for a job, you have to have a completed profile. And the profile looks somewhat similar to a resume. So it requires that you list out your contact information, your work experience and details about that, any other skills, knowledge, abilities, your education background. So if you work on that now and you have that profile ready to go, then when a position opens and you've already done the legwork, you've already created your profile and you went ahead and you subscribed to that job, you get an email as soon as it opens, and it's so much easier for you to actually apply. So that is my number one tip for anybody interested in employment opportunities at East Bay MUD. Heck, I work at East Bay MUD and I still use this when there are openings that I'm interested in. So for the role I have now, I signed up for an alert just because I didn't want to leave it to me remembering when something might open. When creating that profile, it is very important to provide ample details about your knowledge, skills, and experience. So take the time to really write it out and think about, what it is, what's translatable, and how might somebody who doesn't have that same experience set or worked at that same place, how would we understand the work that you did? Really being sure to include volunteer, military experience, any trainings you've received, languages you speak, read, or write, licenses, certifications, you get the point. Just really take the time to make it a thorough profile. And then again, ensuring the accuracy of the dates that are listed for your employment. Sometimes some of our positions do have a requirement for a certain number of years of experience. And so if the dates you list are inaccurate, that might mean that you are considered to be not qualified for a certain position. So again, just take the time to make sure that's thorough. And really important to note these last two bits. Ensure your email address is typed correctly and that you use one that you check regularly. Most communications, once you've submitted your application, will be sent to your email. So just again, checking that regularly and making sure there's no typos. And then finally, though you have the option to upload a resume, you cannot upload one in lieu of filling out a complete application or profile. So a resume, if anything, would be supplemental, but my recommendation would be to prioritize making sure your profile itself is complete. And then here, I just wanted to highlight, so we talked about this site already. This is where you can see all of the available jobs at East Bay MUD. including those that we're not currently recruiting for. So this is that website here. And again, we'll provide a copy of this presentation to folks who registered for the event, which will include clickable links. So no need to scramble to write it down. Just wanted to highlight 4 things on this page. So first is that you can navigate up here using the menu to navigate to current job openings. So right now we're on the career pages website. This is showing us every job at EBMUD. If you go up here to the menu, you can navigate to see what is open today. What can I apply for right now? Thank you so much, Talia. Just put in some links in the chat, which will also send you to government jobs. Up here is where candidates or where you can sign in if you have a pre-existing account. And if you don't, this is where you can go to create one. Here is where you can search for classifications that meet your interests and experience level. And if you click into the job, so you see here, this is kind of the main landing page. You'll see this every time you go to this main page, but if you use search terms, you'll see different things appear. But if you see a job you're interested in, like this account clerk position, you could click on it, and up here, it will populate details about that position. So it will show you the, beyond just the salary, it will show you a great deal of information about what exactly folks in that classification do, and what types of knowledge and experience are required. Just to cover a couple more tips for candidates, we'll kind of go through these a little bit more quickly, but essentially what I want to highlight here is we have this website, ebmud.com job resources. That's the full link. I kind of abridged it right there, but great. Talia just put it in the chat. But I wanted to highlight some of the sections on there, which are why I think it's really important for you to check these out if you haven't before. So first, you can see how to get started with your EBMUD career and tips for completing your application. Some of that will be what we've just talked about here, but it's always a great resource. You can also see sample test items. So this is really great if you have been invited to an exam as part of your application process. Take a look at these resources. This can be a great way to identify maybe where you might need to study more. Next is the Employee Benefits Program. There's a link to it on that site, as well as information about EBMUD's Equal Employment Opportunity. There's also, this is one of my favorite resources. This is Career Paths at EBMUD. So each of these is a one-page PDF, and I have an example on the following page, but it's a great way if you're interested in a specific career path. This can really give you a good idea of how you might, if you're entry level, how you might get your foot in the door, or even if you're mid-level or higher, what career trajectories might exist. So this is one example of those career pathways that I just noted. So you can see here, this is for pipeline construction and maintenance careers. And you'll notice utility labor is not on this, this career ladder, but they do work closely with folks in this career ladder. So I thought it might be a good one to show. It's also a good reminder that not every job classification we have is represented by one of these career ladders. So if you are looking through the career ladders and your heart sinks a little bit because you're not seeing something necessarily that you are interested in, don't mistake that to mean that we don't have that career pathway. I'll give you an example. EBMUD, we have carpenters, and we have a variety of different roles there. We also have ranger naturalists. And just to go back to that previous slide, provided you can see the small text, you'll see that there's not a carpentry career ladder or a ranger naturalist career ladder. So this is kind of representative of some of our larger career pathways. They can be a really great way to visualize things, but if you don't see the one you have your heart set on, please don't be discouraged. So just to give you an idea of how to navigate these career ladders, you can see the title and pay in the colored box. You can see the education that's required, the certifications or licenses that are needed, and if experience is needed. So it's a great way to understand where you might set your sights on, or hey, if I get my foot in the door as a water distribution plumber 1, where might I want to promote to, or how can I develop while I'm at EBMUD? I really also like showing these career pathways because we do have a big emphasis on developing folks once they get here. It's not just that we want to get people in the door to EBMUD. We want to invest in them the entire time they're here. So these lighter color boxes are another great thing to highlight, which is you can see that, well, or maybe you can't see, I recognize this graphic is a little small, but we can provide a copy of it. Here it says advance through meeting job standards. So for these ones, this is what's called an up or out, where the folks would start as a water distribution plumber 1, and by meeting job standards, they get that promotion. So it's not even necessarily they have to wait for a job opening. It's, are they meeting standards? This is 1 year as a plumber 1, and then this one is 3 years as a plumber 2, I believe. And then the ones that are represented with the like darker blue box, those are ones where you would have to wait for an opening to apply, but they're great opportunities. All right, again, now the reason we're here, we have utility laborer. So just to get into it, the selection process. First, I'm so sorry, I might be missing a slide here. 1 second. Oh, okay, sorry. The next slide, we have more details. So the selection process broadly is there will be a review of the online applications, which are due by Friday, March 22nd at 4:30 p.m. So you turn in that application by 4:30 p.m. on Friday the 22nd. EBMUD staff reviews the online application. The most competitive candidates who meet the job qualifications will be invited to an online written exam, tentatively scheduled for the week of April 15th. Following that, there is a physical abilities test or field test scheduled for mid-May. There is a hiring interview scheduled for the week of June 3rd. And following that, the candidates would be ranked and their background checks would be completed. And this graphic here on the right is just kind of showing that typically EBMUD hiring processes, as with most processes, will narrow things down, narrow the candidate pool down as each stage progresses. So again, it's in red for a reason. The position will be posted online from March 18th to the 22nd. So that's a 5-day posting period. Starts Monday morning on March 18th, and it closes by 4:30 p.m. that Friday, March 22nd. Another thing to note is that this specific recruitment is limited to the first 250 qualified applicants. This is another reason why it is to your advantage to sign up for alerts for jobs in which you are interested, because it could be that 250 qualified applicants apply by Wednesday evening. And so if you might still meet that Friday 4:30 p.m. deadline, but if you're the 260th applicant, you won't be considered. So again, just another reason to kind of be on it when it comes to positions you're interested in. And on the right here, you can see a flyer that we will provide to folks after the fact. But it kind of covers just like some of the information we're talking about today. So for this position, for utility laborer, the education requirement is 8th grade education or equivalent. No prior experience is required. And then the physical characteristics to perform the duty of the job, being willing to work outdoors in diverse weather conditions, to work paid overtime as needed, And finally, to have a satisfactory driving record and a valid California driver's license. So as we mentioned previously, there is a written exam component. It's going to be an online written exam. And I put this little icon here for both of us to remember. It is timed. So that is another element. It is not necessarily just having the competencies. It's being able to navigate that in a set period of time. I do not personally know the, the amount of time that would be shared with folks when they are invited to take the test, but just again, a really important note there. It will cover the areas of reading comprehension, math aptitude, and mechanical/spatial ability. To give you kind of a flavor of what that might entail, highly recommend you go to EBMUD's job resources page. We talked about it on a previous slide. That will have 2 practice exams. One is a standard sample practice exam. The other one is called the Water Distribution Plumber 1, I believe, sample or practice exam. Both of those are great resources for the utility laborer applicants. So they are multiple choice and they have an answer key. So you can kind of get a feel for how those questions might look. Next, as we mentioned, is like a physical or a field test, which will have 5 components. So lifting and carrying cement bags, maneuvering a pavement breaker, assembling equipment, lifting and carrying meter boxes, and shoveling sand. Again, this icon is here for a reason. It is another timed exam. So it is testing that combination of safety and proper work practice with the ability to do the physical components in a set amount of time. I highly recommend checking out this video. You'll see that it's titled Water Distribution Plumber 1 Recruitment Video. Despite the name, it covers these 5 areas and gives tips to folks who are invited to the field exam. So again, I would not wait until you get to that stage. Take a look at this video. This will be a clickable link in the PDF of the presentation. It's also located on our job resources webpage. Yeah. All right. And now I would like to invite Gassan Williams, who I believe is on the call. He is a construction maintenance superintendent and would probably be a much better person to speak to what specifically they're looking for this position. So Gassan, are you on the call with us?
Yeah, yes. Hi, everyone. I brought Dennis Nicely also with me too. He's a construction maintenance superintendent here in Pipeline Rebuild as well. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Glad to see all your faces. I would just start off by saying, what typical tasks of a utility laborer is, here in my department, we have 13 crews and we mainly focus on infrastructure renewal, which that is, we are replacing the water pipes in the streets in front of your house. And some of you guys may have seen us out there and when we open cut a trench and put the pipe in, and then we chlorinate and clean the pipe, and then we transfer each house onto the pipe as we go down the street. So typical task is shoveling, sweeping, assisting the crew, whatever the crew may need you to do. So the way our crew's made up, we have utility laborers, then we have water distribution plumbers, heavy equipment operators, and truck drivers. So the utility laborer is just like the assistant to the crew, and they flag traffic. So they just assist their crew in whatever their crew may need. And then the plumbers would focus more on the plumbing work and do that. And then there's always plenty of opportunity for utility laborers to what we call work out of class. So you might be a utility laborer, but if we're short on plumbers, we will work you out of class and pay you a higher scale to do the plumber work with some training, those certain, whatever tasks we feel comfortable that you're able to do. So what makes an ideal candidate? Um, Number one, show up to work every day. Be on time, be ready to work, have an open mindset, be able to take constructive criticism. There's a lot of learning to do with this position. It's entry level, so it's going to be a constant learning. And like I said, I have 13 crews, and we're spread out amongst the whole service area. So you could be in Walnut Creek today and Castro Valley tomorrow, or Crockett the next day. So we just kind of move our staff around as we need them to go. So you want to be willing, you want to be open. You're going to meet a lot of new people, be a team player. And that's pretty much what makes an ideal candidate is number one, show up on time, be a team player, be ready to work. It is a physical job. You can't be shy of the work. So you got to come in ready to work. And yeah, and then let's see, possible career pathways. So as Courtney touched on, everybody, if you come in as a utility laborer, the next thing you would like to promote to would be a water distribution plumber. And then you go into the training program, what we call our PTA, Pipeline Training Academy. And then it goes into further detail. There's 10 weeks in the classroom. And then they mainly focus on putting pipe in the ground. And it's a full-on training program. So you got utility labor, and then the next path would be plumber, become a plumber. And then, of course, if you would like to explore other career options, there's a wide variety of career options here at the district. And before we go into tips for applications, I wanted to check with Dennis to see if he had anything to add or if there was any questions. Dennis, you're on? Oh, you're on mute.
We can unmute.
Okay, that's fine. We'll come back to Dennis. Do you guys have any questions? No questions? Okay, tips for applicants.
Oh, wait, hold on. I see Sonam or Sonam. Let's go ahead and unmute you, and then Donta after that. So let's see, allow mic. All right, you should be able to unmute.
Sure. Okay, go for it.
Hi, my name is Sonam Patil. I'm just trying to be a plumber, but here is I don't have a prior experience, and that's why here is the entry level. So I have one question. My question is, can we get a step by step, the link, the application directly? Because of we need to search the website is too difficult for us because we get a many option over there. This is the utility labor for the water. So I just want to be a plumber. That's why I need to entry level on this side. So can I get the utility labor to link to apply the application? That's my question.
Definitely. We will put a link in the chat to the utility labor classification description. And I recommend, because it's not open right now, you will have to wait until Monday, March 18th to submit your application. But you can hit subscribe once Talia is able to put that in the chat. And that way it will send you an email when the position opens on March 18th. All right, next up we have Donta. Let's see, I'll allow mic. There we go.
Hello, you guys. My question is this utility worker job, how do I say this? Is it just for a single site, or is it for many sites within a certain radius of the Bay Area?
So it depends on what department you get hired into. If you get hired into my department, which is pipeline rebuild, we cover the whole district. So that's from that whole service area from Crockett down to Castro Valley out to Walnut Creek. For the most part. So my department covered the whole district. Now you can get hired into like say a North Yard or South Yard or East Yard
Okay.
or Central Yard, and then you will report to that location every day and work out of that location. But my department covers the whole district.
Okay. That helped me out real bit because I'm a Bay Area local. I stay in Hayward, so I was just trying to just see if narrow out the locations.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. And thank you for that question. We have now figured out how to unmute Dennis. So we're going to turn it over to Dennis. I do see we have about 5 more hands raised. So once Dennis gets the opportunity to speak, we'll go back to taking questions.
All right, thanks. I'll make it quick. Hi, everybody. Just to touch on what Stan mentioned, utility labor is a great entry-level position with no experience required. You know, the biggest thing is having an aptitude and a good attitude and being able to be part of a team and enjoying the work and learning. It's a direct correlation that feeds right into the plumber series. You know, it goes from plumber 1 to plumber 2 to plumber 3. And once you get to that step, the plumber actually feeds a lot of other job classifications. A lot of these guys go on to be other things such as construction inspectors, there's foreman, there's general pipe supervisor. But yeah, the knowledge that the district will give you during your plumber training really translates to a lot of different careers here at the district that are related to our water distribution. So I highly encourage you to give it a chance. No experience necessary. And it's a great company to work for. But I know we're running out of time, so I'll let it get back to some questions.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Next, I see Khalil has a question. Let me allow Mike. All right, you should be able to unmute, Khalil.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So my question, thank you guys for choosing me. My name is Khalil Whitaker Jenkins. I want to know, do you guys train for your own in-house operating engineers or dump truck operators, or are you pulling from like OE3?
We hire journey level operators and truck drivers here at the district. So we expect them to come in at journey level. So we do not have a training program for operators and truck drivers.
Okay.
Now, once you get in, I will just touch a little bit on this. Once you get in, we have what we call a tuition reimbursement, where if you wanted to go to a truck driver school or heavy equipment operator school, you can apply for tuition reimbursement, get that approved. I think it's $5,000 a year at this point, or if you want to go to college, whatever that may be. If it's approved, you can use that money. And if you obtain a Class A license and get some training and you want to promote to a truck driver or get operating training and become an operator, if you can pass the civil service exam, you'll go on a hiring list and go through that whole process. So there's opportunity there too.
Can I add one more part to my question before you go?
Sure.
If I've already been working as a Class A dump truck driver for the last 4 years, would you need more of a requirements for me in order to fulfill that position, or is that?
No, I would start applying for either a heavy transport operator or a truck driver too. Those are 2 truck driver positions. Heavy transport operator. Yep. Heavy transport operator and truck driver too. And you can start applying and go through that route and come in directly as a truck driver.
Okay.
Yep.
Before we move on to the next hand, there was a good follow-up question from Caitlin in the chat. Caitlin asked, does that mean transportation to all of these locations is the individual's responsibility? Is there a central location for training/headquarters? So for example, Gaston, like for the crews you have where, and I see Brian also put an answer in the chat. But it'd be good to hear from you as well, Gaston, in terms of when you have crews that are going to multiple different areas, how that works. Are they showing up to one place every morning?
So pipeline rebuild is a job site reporting work unit, meaning all of our employees report directly to the job site, and what they get is called a job site reporting pay. So they get $23 a day every time they show up to work. You show up to work, you get $23 on top of your salary, and that's a job site reporting work group. Now, if you was to get hired into a service yard, you have a central location that you show up to every day. That is not a job site reporting site, so you don't get that. So you will show up in South Yard in San Leandro every day, or Richmond every day, or Walnut Creek every day, or West Oakland every day to Central Yard, and then you will take a district vehicle or whatever the task is for the day, and you would do that. But Pipeline is a job site reporting group.
Thank you, Gaston. And one thing I'll note is when applying for one of these positions, you're applying to be on the civil service list, and it could be that that Gaston is pulling a utility laborer and that North Yard is pulling a utility laborer from the same list. So if you're only interested, for example, in working in one specific area and what Gaston just described doesn't really seem like a good fit, I would still encourage you to apply, because you're applying to be on the overall list. And if you are selected and a job offer is made, that detail would be explained as to like what specifically is being offered to you. So you would know at that time, and I just hope that doesn't that like nuance comes through.
Yeah, don't let the location that you're getting hired into stop you from accepting a position here. Once you get in, there's always different ways you can maneuver the district, whether or not you promote to a different job or move to a different work unit, or after you've been here for 5 years, you can reassign to a different work unit. And so that don't say no because it's not the location that you want. So, more questions? Let's see.
Yeah, let's see. So we have Ibby is up next. I'm going to go ahead and allow Mike, and you should be able to unmute.
Hi, I'm Ibrahim Shahid. I also go by Ibi. I had a question. I'm currently enrolled in the process technology program at LMC, and I was wondering if I were to make the cut and get into the utility laborer, if I would still be able to finish the program, if there'd be transferable credits from the on-site hands-on work towards my AA in process technology.
Oh, you would have to talk with I can't answer that question. You'd have to talk to your counselor if there's some type of credit that you can, work experience credit or something like that if we meet the criteria. So you'd have to talk to your counselor about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah. Maybe Gaston, can you speak to have you had utility laborers or plumber ones who have been in an educational program, maybe like in the evenings, or or like have they been able to balance that? Has that been an issue?
I haven't had that one, but if you're taking night classes or online classes, it shouldn't affect your work as long as you're eligible or ready or can report to work from 7 to 4:30. You should be fine.
Great. Thank you.
It's good to know. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so next we have Jose Alejandre. I'm going to allow Mike.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hi. Hi. How's it going? My name is Jose Alejandre, and I just want to thank you guys for your guys' time and for all the information you guys given out. So basically, my question was already answered. It was just about the showing up. If we're responsible to show up at the job location, for example, tomorrow could be Hayward, tomorrow could be San Jose or Castro Valley, things like that. So I believe it was already answered. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Jose. Next is Ahmad. I will allow Mike.
Hey there, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Again, I want to thank you guys for, so much for giving the time for all this information. I had two really quick questions. My first one was, so I have my OSHA, my TWIC card, and I have a couple of my government safety certificates. Would would that help to put that into my my resume or when I apply? And my second question was, uh, what was the starting pay rate for the utility worker?
So I
The
can,
first question, I would say put everything in there that you would make yourself a more viable candidate to the district in the application process. So whatever qualifications, whatever trainings that you had, make sure you put that in there in some sort of way. And
Okay.
you know, we'll get that. We'll get down to the tips for the applicants, and you know, you can talk about some of that type of stuff in your panel interview as well.
yeah, and then about starting pay, this here, the 81,000, I believe 336, it's a little small on my screen. That would be the starting pay. And I believe Talia also put a link to the position in the chat. So if you click on that, it will also have the monthly salary listed, which again, I'm struggling to read, but we'll provide that to you. And then
Okay.
we had a great question in the chat. From Matthew. Matthew asked, does it help if you have been a journeyman in the trades for a number of years already?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a entry-level position, so it's not gonna, not gonna have a leg up or so in the application process. But you know, when you get to a panel interview, you definitely want to talk about that type of stuff. Any construction experience helps for sure,
All right.
but
All
not
right. So
required.
thank you. We'll take one more question for now. We have a couple more slides I did want to get through. And
And I
then
want to talk a little bit about
oh,
tips.
yes. Yes. There we go. So, well, then let's go on to tips and then we'll see how many questions we can get to once we finish up the slides.
Okay, cool. So tips for applications. I talked a little bit about putting everything you can in that application to make sure your application, it's a competitive process. They're only going to take 250 apps. So whatever kind of experience you have, you put it in there to make sure you get your application accepted or selected, right? And then, you know, the physical tests, you know, a lot of those things are timed out there and the time is added up. So don't be out there taking your time. Once you understand the process of what's being asked for you to do, you know, have some urgency about it because it matters when we're narrowing down things. And then lastly, the most important thing is the interview. I know a lot of you guys may not have a whole lot of interview experience, but it's really important to read the question, understand the question. If you don't understand something, ask the question, a clarifying question, but be detailed as possible, and don't be shy at the panel interview. You know, now is the time. That's when you really sell yourself in the process here at the district. Any kind of panel interview that you have, this is you presenting yourself. So be detailed as possible and give much detail as possible, especially if you got underground experience or labor experience. Make anything transferable tasks or experience that you have, make sure you talk about that type of stuff that relates. So that's all I had really for tips. And if you got any more questions, we can do a couple more questions, right?
Yeah, so we've got just a handful more slides and then once we wrap those up, we will get to questions. But thank you so much. I think that your perspective is invaluable and Dennis's as well. And
we
we'll
do
do our
have
best to, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Me and Dennis do have a 2:00.
Okay, we'll get you out in time. I promise.
No problem.
Okay, so just really quickly, we talked about this earlier with regard to the utility laborer process, but again, just like kind of broadening out once again, East Bay MUD, most of our positions are civil service positions, which follow these steps here. Now, not every position will have every one of these steps, but it's a good framework to understand if you're interested in applying for positions at East Bay MUD. And when we talk about assessments, the step 3, that can include a written exam, a panel interview, a physical abilities test. Again, if we recall back to the process for utility laborer, that process will have the written exam and a physical abilities test. that's part of the assessments for utility laborer, but for any job classification, it can kind of look different for each one. But it usually has a combination of these steps. And another note here is that civil service lists are typically used to fill vacancies for anywhere between 12 to 18 months after they're established. The reason why I want to highlight this is to really emphasize that while this process might seem somewhat long, it may take some time. It is a true investment in your future. So if you think about this being a process that, you know, may take several weeks or months, it can provide employment opportunities for you for 12 to 18 months. So, you know, when the list is initially established, they can make, you know, a certain number of hires off of that list. But several months in the future, if there's another vacancy, they'll go back to that same list. So all is not lost if you don't receive a job offer right away. It's really just good to get on that list so that you continue to have opportunities in the future. And again, it's not indefinite. So if the civil service list is established and it expires, you would have to follow the recruitment steps again. So even if you've taken the physical and written exam before, if in 2 years you're applying for utility laborer again or water distribution plumber, you'll still have to do all the same tests and process as you did previously. Really quickly, I will not read off all these slides. We will provide a copy to those who registered. This is also available online, but I did want to just take a moment to really highlight that there's a variety of ways that EBMUD takes care of its employees. There's a number of different benefits, ranging from insurance to leave and retirement, and other perks as well. So if you take public transit or you bike or walk to your main reporting location at least 11 days each month, you can qualify for a stipend of $145 every month. And that's just to encourage our employees to, you know, be as green as they can, even on their way to work. We have on-site gyms, well-being programs, an employee assistance program, which provides a wide array of different supports to employees. We have that tuition reimbursement program that Gaston mentioned. So that offers $3,500 a year. There's a little asterisk here. There's one of our 4 unions has $5,000 a year just based off of their negotiations. But for like utility labor, it would be $3,500 a year that it's pre-approved. You're able to, or rather, there's an approval process. And if you get approved, you can get reimbursed for up to $3,500 towards your education and development to help you get to that next step in your career. And then access to EBMUD recreation areas as well. All right, before we go back to questions, just wanted to highlight a couple more resources. So these are non-EBMUD resources. This is also non-exhaustive, but I did just want to highlight, again, if you're really motivated and you want to prepare for a written exam, especially one that has the elements we talked about for utility laborer, there is a free test prep class that's offered by the Construction Trades Workforce Initiative. And this is their flyer here. We will provide a copy of that flyer to folks who registered. And Talia has kindly put a link into the chat as well. This is a book that is a great resource for folks who are looking for practice tests. And so this gives mechanical aptitude and spatial relations tests. These are items that are probably similar to the types of items that would be on an EBMUD exam that has mechanical aptitude and spatial relations items. There's also some video tutorials. Check out Khan Academy or YouTube for different resources. For example, and just to spell out this acronym, TABE, it's Tests for Adult Basic Education. Anyways, these are great tutorials. They kind of walk you through the problem-solving process so that you can be equipped for that timed test. Okay, now we have 4 whole minutes that we can dedicate to our last couple questions. We'll go ahead and get started with Robert, and I will allow Mike. Robert, can you unmute?
Sorry about that. I'm not sure if this was mentioned, but is this for one new hire or is it multiple?
Multiple positions throughout the whole service. I don't know how many I don't know how many approved positions there are. I know I have 2 in my department. There might be another 1 or 2 in DMC, but regardless of the amount of positions that's available right now, the list is going to be good for 2 years. So it'll be a really good hiring list for you to be on. Very often we go down and hire, anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 people off a list over a 2-year period. So not all the time, but so if you rank 7th or 8th, you're good. It's a good chance you might get a job off this list in the next 2 years. So,
Okay, cool. Thank you.
yep.
Great. Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Gaston. Next is Cheryl. I will go ahead and allow Mike.
Hello.
Hey,
I'm
Cheryl.
from TWI. I'm also a retiree of East Bay Mud. How y'all doing? I'm working with a group of people, but they all didn't get to see the video. It said that they weren't given permission. So I got a bunch, and then I couldn't enter it anywhere. How do they find the video? But you're going to send that out to us, right? So I can show it to them again. All right.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you, Cheryl. Okay. Next up is Brody.
Hello.
We can hear
you.
you.
Me? Yeah. All right. So is there going to be any positions as far as like traffic control and flagging as a union laborer or whatever?
Yeah. So every utility laborer is certified to flag traffic and assist us with traffic control when need be. Not necessarily you won't necessarily be doing that every day, but you will be certified at the district to flag traffic.
And how often will that will that be available normally?
Just a flag or
yeah.
Oh, it just depends.
Okay.
It's not an everyday thing for sure. It depends on how extensive the traffic control is. If it's really extensive, sometimes we'll contract that out and to help the crew out to alleviate them from needing to control that much traffic if it's really dense or something like that. But every utility laborer is certified to flag traffic.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And I think we have time for one last question. So Richard, I will unmute you. And then if your question didn't get answered, put it in the chat. I'll try to stay on a little bit later and answer what I can.
I can take the 3 that's there. No, I'll take the 4 and then I have.
Okay, so we'll end with Nasser.
I'll take those 4. Yep.
Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question. In regards to getting ourselves to the job site, would we be provided a work truck or would we need to provide our own mode of transportation? And also, if so, would we need to bring our own tools or specific tools to said job site, or how does that work?
Yeah. So once again, if you are hired into Pipeline Rebuild or Job Site Reporting Group, you will be driving your own vehicle to the job site every day. If you get hired into a service yard, one of the 4, you would drive your personal vehicle to that service yard, and you wouldn't drive your personal vehicle again until you're on your way home. You would be provided a district vehicle. And once you start, once you report to work, even in my department, even though we're a job site reporting group, once you report to work, unless you're dispatched to a different job site or a different crew for that day, you wouldn't need to be driving your personal vehicle around. You'll be in a district vehicle if you're required to go anywhere else throughout during the work hours.
Thank you.
Perfect.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Nasser, you can come off mute, and this is going to be our last question for the day.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
How you doing? So I'm
Good.
new to this. Like one of the first jobs I seen on the site, like, I'm like new to this. It was the utility labor worker. So what exactly? Like I know every job you have to have like these type of skills or that type of skills to do that the task for that job. What skills would you say like you need the most for to be a utility worker that you need to stay on top of?
I would just say, I mean, it's an entry level job. So the number 1 skill is to come to work with a good attitude and be willing to learn and be willing to do physical work. So if you're not shy of physical labor and shoveling and sweeping and anything we ask you to do, you're going to be trained and we're going to tell you how to do it. So you can imagine you could be at Starbucks making coffee today. We're not going to ask you to do any, and once you get a job here, you're going to be fully trained and you're not going to be asked to do anything that you're not trained to do. And if you don't understand something, you just ask questions and you'll get some instruction on it and that'll be that. But we won't ask you to do anything that you're not trained to do.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And before we wrap up, Christian, there was also that second piece of the previous person's question about having one's own tools. Can you just clarify if folks need to provide their own tools?
Yeah. No, you won't need your own tools at all. Once you work for the district, everything's 100% provided. Hard hats, vests, tools, whatever it takes to get our work done, we will provide that.
Phenomenal. Thank you again so much to the folks, to everybody who joined us today. Thank you so much to Gaston and to Dennis for being our resident experts as well, and to our recruitment and classification team who helped answer some questions in the chat. Huge thank you to Talia, who was in there with all the links. That was invaluable. If you have any remaining questions, this is a great resource, jobs@ebmud.com. And again, if folks do have any remaining questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat, but we're going to let Dennis and Gaston head to their 2 o'clock.
Dennis already bailed on me. He's in the other thing, so I'll take these 2 questions and then that's it. And then I'll bail. Since he's there already.
All right, you're the best. All right, Manny, you should be able to unmute.
Okay, my question actually was back to you. Where can I obtain the copy of the tests, the practice tests, so I can study and be ready for when the time comes to do the written exams? And unfortunately, my screen, I wasn't seeing the slides. It was just all black.
That's why too bad.
I know. I'm sorry.
No problem. Here, I've just put in the chat the link to our job resources page. And that's where you'll find the 2 practiced exams. And then if you registered with your email address, we'll send a follow-up email that includes a link to this virtual presentation, which hopefully will have nothing blacked out, as well as a copy of the slides.
Wonderful. Thank you much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Dante.
Oh, I apologize about that. I had typed it in the chat, but are Cypress graduates have any type of leg up or priority in the process?
So, go ahead, Christian.
No, I would say not necessarily a leg up, but I would say that if you are a Cypress graduate, then you evidently you would have some sort of construction and trades training, and that's something you can bring up in your interview. That will help show the panelists that you do have some trades training, and of course it's a competitive process. So the more training and experience you have with being a utility laborer, of course, it will help, but it won't help in the application process. It won't help at the physical test, and that's a feather in your cap when you get on the panel and you can say some type of training that you do have.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and definitely I would encourage, if you have experience in a pre-apprenticeship program like Cypress Mandela, it's always a good idea to list that under your experience, even if it's not technically a job, because that alone is really rich experience. You're getting tool recognition and experience with a variety of different techniques and things like that. You might even be doing OSHA trainings. So I would encourage you to list that on your application. And as Gaston mentioned, don't rely solely on your application. If you get to that interview stage, the folks who are interviewing you do not always see your full application. So don't be afraid to mention something that was on your application or on your resume, to bring that up and make sure they know all the good experience you have. So.
Okay, I appreciate you both.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gaston. Bye. All right, and I saw there was a question in the chat here about, do the 250 applicants for the job always fill? Do we have someone, is recruitment and classification still on the call that someone can put a response in the chat? If not, let's see. I will say, not necessarily for utility laborer, but for some of our other high volume recruitments, we have had positions where it exceeds the cap, and we, certain people have to be told, you weren't one of the first 400 or 250 applicants. We have also had recruitments where we didn't hit the cap. So it really just depends. But I would encourage folks to, to not bank on it not filling up, and to try to get your application in sooner rather than later. And again, work on your profile now so that when the position opens, you can click apply. All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. Again, thank you to the team at EBMUD for supporting, and we will be sending resources out probably next week to the folks who registered for this webinar. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and we hope that we see your applications on Monday, March 18th. Thank you.